Opposed? That's carried. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so we move on to the next item, which is the Resource Recovery Report, item 8. And welcome Helen Beaumont to the table. You're going to give us a very brief overview. Yeah. I have got the foot on the pedal a wee bit, but I don't want to stimmy any questions on the importance of this report. But it's a good report, and your introduction will add even more to that, so hopefully we can skim through it. I've got Ross and Josh.
Yes, I've got Ross Trotter and Joshua Wilson with me today because I'm anticipating there may be some questions about the organics processing plant, which is a particular focus at the moment. So just a brief overview of the report, and to note that we have commenced a service delivery review, and that's prior to the expiry of major contracts in 2024 and 2029. And that service delivery review will inform the strategic procurement plan for those contracts. There's a continued focus on education for the yellow recycling bins, and we're pleased to see that through a combination of education and audit, which has resulted in a sort of 3 strikes and you're out removal of bins process as well, we have had a significant improvement in the contamination levels. So they continue to improve across the city. And we're also seeing that where we return bins, where people either pay to have that bin brought back or there's a change in tenant, and we have some reinforcing education, that we're seeing an improvement in those previously persistently contaminated bins. We also have work underway at a number of closed landfills around the district. Now, some of this is in response to issues identified at those landfills, and some of it is proactive in terms of the increasing risk due to sea level rise. So there's a mix of works around the district. We are, of course, continuing to work on the upgrade of the organics processing plant, and we are aware that we've had to cancel 2 face-to-face meetings with the community where we would have been able to maintain an update process and answer questions. So those were cancelled due to the COVID alert levels. So what we're looking at doing in March is working with Environment Canterbury to have a venue, possibly at Environment Canterbury, that we can also run the meeting through Zoom or Microsoft Teams if the alert levels go back up. So we want a backup plan if things change next time. So I'm happy to take questions, and as I noted, I've got my team here to assist.
Great. Thank you, Helen. Good report. Are there any questions on this one for Helen? No? That is very surprising. Hang on, I think that I'm not...
Question? Yeah.
Yanni.
Just, I was just interested in the auditing process of the yellow bins. Are we particularly targeting any suburbs? Because I've had complaints from some residents that feel like their suburbs are getting targeted more than others. And I just want to make sure that we've had a fair process across the entire city to do the audits.
Yeah, sure, I'll answer that, Yanni. The selection criteria for a specific, for looking at the contamination, is areas that are performing poorly with the collections. So when by default we automatically audit trucks as they come in, those audits, that information is allocated to a particular area. So if that area is performing poorly, then that's where we will target the auditing. Having said that, there is quite a spread across Christchurch where we have done the audits, and part of that process too is also to go back and check on those areas after a period of time, just to see if that behaviour has improved, which normally it has.
How often, if you were living in one of the targeted areas, how often would your bin be checked for non-compliance?
I'd have to come back to you on that. It would depend on if the average of that area has improved to a level we would looking at another area. But the audit team are spread over all of Christchurch, but I can come back to you to see if there's a particular area that you want any information on. We can come back to you on that.
Yeah, okay. I just think, like if I'd be interested if people are getting like weekly compliance checks or every sort of, month versus, how often we would go back to an area. But the other thing I was really interested in was what's happening with the RFID tagging process of the bins. How's that going? Because
I mean, what?
well, we did hear that there was an issue with some of the performance of the tags. So I just wanted to check how we're tracking in terms of resolving that issue.
Communication between the two, the Waste Management and Council, isn't it? In the report it says that it's improving considerably, I believe.
Yeah, and we have a meeting with Waste Management scheduled for Monday to talk through some of those issues with the contract, and particularly the RFID tagging, and improving on that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Phil?
I'm just going to talk about the Bexley Landfill, but it's just a question, is that tagging thing working as well as what we were led to believe when we were sold the concept?
From our position, no, we'd like to see it working better, more consistently. The technology itself, can work, but we need to be working consistently so we can use it how we anticipated using it.
Okay, so it's not quite up to what we want.
It's not where we'd like.
Okay. With the closed Bexley landfill thing, I see that it needed some additional requirements from Environment Canterbury. Roughly what was that?
I've got a list here.
Not as much as if we'd used sheet piling, I believe.
If we did sheet piling, the job would be finished.
But part of the process in terms of the consenting, we have had to look at a benthic survey, which has taken 3.5 months, contaminated land assessment of works and monitoring during construction. It's 2 months, and global NES, which is National Environmental Standard consenting, 1.5 months, and these have been done in parallel, so it's not cumulative. And then we have the actual resource consenting application, which is a couple of months as well. So all these have to be in place.
But what I'm getting at, our we're biting the bullet and fixing this. Our Environment Canterbury being realistic or throwing hurdles at us to make us jump through more hoops than we should. You see where I'm coming from?
So Environment Canterbury are being understandably careful because these works are in the marine zone and close to the sea. Mm-hmm. So no, they're not throwing unnecessary hoops in place, but we will. It does take time to work through the consenting in such a sensitive area.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I've just got one last quick question, if I may, on the container return deposit scheme. So does this apply to more items than just glass?
Correct. It's the current proposal draft is looking at all beverage containers, so that even goes to milk bottles, for example, as well as your Coke cans and PET, which is your Coke 1 1/4 litre, that
Really?
type. So
all the stuff that we currently recycle.
Correct.
I didn't
So that's the scope currently that's going to go before the minister.
And then we're looking at the government's looking at banning several single-use plastic items. So is that plastic bags?
So that's another piece of work. I'm not too familiar with exactly what they're looking at banning there, but it is to move away from single use. There is also looking at regulations around manufacturing only out of plastics 1, 2 and 5. So that gets rid of your mixed plastics, your 3, 4s, 6, 7s, which are problematic to recycle and now will be difficult to ship offshore due to the Basel Convention.
Well, just if you wouldn't mind, when you get information on this, if you could flick a memo out to the committee, that would be really helpful, because I actually didn't realise it was more than glass, I thought it was just glass. Okay, well, excellent report. Oh, Yanni, one last question.
Just one other thing is the organics processing and composting costs year to date, which are 406,000 lower than planned due to lower processing costs and lower planned collection costs. Is that a saving to us or the contractor? And why? I mean, how could it be lower with all the complaints that we've had trying to solve the problem?
Firstly, that's a saving to us. The with the finances, with the collections and the processing, we do a calculation which divides it up into the various groups, which is your organics and your recycling and your rubbish. I don't think that calculation always is accurate when we're dividing it back by 3. So sometimes we're getting unders and overs with those different waste groups. So we are looking with finance as to how we can report that better. So there hasn't, in terms of the actual cost of collection and processing, they have remained the same. It's all, the variable there is the volume.
Okay.
Just can't quite understand how there could be a $474,000 saving on organics processing when we've had adaptive management plans, complaints, non-compliances. Like, how would that money be being saved rather than going into addressing the problem?
Through. It's not about the complaints.
A wee bit, yeah. There is a wee bit in the volumes, but really it is that allocation of those cost centres and actually getting that split right between those waste streams.
So maybe you could send a memo out just fleshing that data out a little bit more, if you wouldn't mind, if that's the simple piece.
Absolutely, we're working with finance now to try and get that more
Thank
refined.
You. Got 1 minute, Phil.
Hey, the Onuku closed landfill at Akaroa, I see, and I can imagine what it was like being an old dump, and it would have very little capping on it. One thing that you could, I know because a couple of mates of mine are looking at building some houses over there, and it's big trouble to get rid of the clay, the excavation. Could we start up an area somewhere there that we can stockpile clay for future capping? Because if we say, right, we're going to cap it because we're going to get an abatement notice, we don't want to be paying to cart the stuff in. Yeah, so
we'd love to work in with because we will need capping material.
Yeah.
Whether we can store it there, we'll just need to work through. We're working through a consenting process at the moment for that capping. The capping that has eroded is on quite a steep slope. There's quite a lot of vegetation there, so there's a lot of preparation that will be required. Yeah. And it's not a big area, so we'll be limited as to how much we could take. But
when you want material in Akaroa, you can't get it. When you want to get rid of it, you can't find a place for it.
But I agree that would be great to be able to link those two together.
Thanks, Phil. All right, well, on that note, I'm happy to move. Who moved it? Oh, great. Oh, you did. I thought there was a little noise over there a minute ago that something else was going. Very sneaky. And you'll note that we have put a little... we've put a little extra note there requesting the Bromley Area Pilot Report and the Compliance Monitoring Report by ECAN be part of this report in future, so that everyone's happy with that. Is there any discussion on this report? I'll put the motion. All those... Yanni, do you want to speak to it?
Well, I don't quite understand too. So you basically mean like the Compliance Monitoring Report's an actual document that was asked for in December. We were told it would be circulated. We got it on the 14th of December, and we had it on the 12th of February.
Future, we want it built into this report so we can also...
Shouldn't it just be circulated to us when it comes into the organisation, rather than wait for months to get it?
Can I just unpack that resolution a little bit? So the Bromley Area Pilot Report, so it's no longer the pilot, but Environment Canterbury are issuing a report every 3 months. So at present, so we can...
The 3 month Bromley Area Report, take pilot out in 3 months. Thanks, Helen.
That may or may not continue, but they are doing that at the moment, so we can provide that. That is
reports,
publicly available on their website.
Thank you. And I think what we'll do is we'll take Yanni's request offline and find out a way that that can be sent to members.
Yes, so if you just do the Bromley Area one for here, and we can talk about the compliance monitoring reports, which come out in response to a non-compliance, and then staff work with the officers at Environment Canterbury to clarify the issues, and then those reports are amended or not as following those discussions, and that's true right across our business, whether it's for any consent with Environment Canterbury. But we can perhaps do that separately. But these 3 monthly reports we can certainly provide.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, they're not 3 monthly, they're monthly.
They've stopped doing them. As far as I'm aware, they stopped in January doing them monthly, and they're just doing them for the liaison groups every quarter. But they may change that.
Well, I mean, I think we're supposed to have a joint elected members group talking about these things. I think monthly reports are actually quite good, particularly because, I mean, the community are just so frustrated with having to put in thousands of complaints, and giving them some feedback about what's been happening is really useful.
All right, Helen, can
So
you please...
can we talk about that with Ethan?
So if we perhaps amend that again, the Bromley area
Yep,
reports on odour and dust. So take out the 3 monthly, and then whatever frequency they produce them.
Yeah.
And they're the ones on odour and dust.
yep. And then can you please
Joint project, so we can ask
work with
Ethan.
ECAN to determine how often those reports come
Yes.
out and
Yeah, that would work better.
let us know. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? That's carried, and I invite Councillor Turner to close the meeting with a card of care, please.
Kia hora te marina, kia whakapapa puna mo te moana. E hora hi mā tātou I te rangi nei. Aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou I tātou katoa. Hui e, tāu kia.
Take it.
Kia ora.